And we're back for week number 4 of Dana White's Contender Series. Of course, 5 fights this week, 5 potential contracts, as Dana White's given out 10 contracts in the last 2 weeks. Let's see who gets signed to the UFC this Tuesday. Now, before we get into the video, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more Dana White's Contender Series predictions here on the channel. More content featuring Dana White's Contender Series. We'll have our UFC predictions out weekly. Obviously, we just did UFC Paris, so there you go. That is linked in the description down below. PFL's off for another bout, 2-3 weeks. We're gonna have that when the PFL's back in action, but of course, weekly UFC, weekly Contender Series here on the channel. So make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Main channel, Greedo Plays. We've got our weekly college football predictions today. Today we're posting a 3.5 hour long college football week 2 predictions video. So you're not gonna want to miss that. And also go make sure to check out our daily MLB best bets on Greedo Plays as well. Okay, on to the first of our 5 predictions here for Dana White's Contender Series. We're going to go through all of the fights like we usually do, and then I will tell you who I think is most likely to get contracts by the end of the night. This is, I think the talent's probably better on this. I don't know. No, this is pretty on par for the rest of the Contender Series. There's some good talent on this card. Okay, starting things off with our first fight, Tommy McMillan taking on David McGoyan. This is a short notice fight for the Russian David McGoyan. Russian, I believe he's Armenian too, I think. McGoyan trains out of American Top Team over in Coconut Creek, Florida. This is a guy, again, who got this call in short notice. Tommy McMillan's original opponent was Cody Law, who you've seen in Bellator in the past. Law had to withdraw from the fight, so now we get McMillan and McGoyan. McGoyan is a wrestle-heavy fighter. That's what he's looking to accomplish in every fight that he has. Does have a decent striking game, but for the most part, McGoyan's going to go in there with his wrestling base, and he's trying to take you down. It creates for an interesting matchup, I believe, with Tommy McMillan, who trains with Sean O'Malley at that same camp in Arizona. Another guy who has grappling. He's looking to put you on your back, and he's looking to submit you. You look at Tommy McMillan, what he's done in his career, 5 of the 8 wins are by submission. The other 3 wins are by TKO. But you get 2 grapplers going into this fight. I am a little bit concerned that Tommy McMillan is just going to be too big for David McGoyan. Another one of these things where we saw it last week where, we didn't know if some heights were correct. McGoyan is listed at 5'9", and maybe he is. I don't know. Tommy McMillan just looks like Tommy McMillan is built at 5'11". McGoyan's built at 5'9". Maybe that really is the case. I just have a little bit of concern if McGoyan's going to not be able to impose his will, because McMillan is a huge dude. He is. For 145 pounds, this is a huge fighter, and this is a guy who used to fight at lightweight, has fought at catchweight 150 in the past, fought for a Fusion Fight League catchweight championship at 150. Don't know what that means. But this is a guy, again, who's fought at 150, fought at 155. He's down to 145, was supposed to fight in the Contender Series last year against Austin Bashi. Probably would have lost, but who knows? Since then, he's picked up back-to-back wins in the first round, one by guillotine choke and one by rear naked choke. Now, Tommy McMillan hasn't really fought anybody all that good in the regional scene. Coming off wins over a 6-4 fighter, a 7-4 fighter, and a 21-19 fighter. For David McGoyan, has made his rounds in CFFC and LFA, but back-to-back victories in the Tough Enough promotion, which, if you've watched me on the channel before, I'm not that high on Tough Enough. I don't think it's the best of promotions, but it's okay. Also, McGoyan is 21. Very young in his career, taking the fight on short notice. I don't entirely like this, I'm going to be honest, because, okay, if you're taking a fight on short notice as a wrestler, it's not, I don't know, I don't like it for a guy, and let me rephrase this. I don't like McGoyan taking the fight on short notice against another wrestle-heavy fighter in Tommy McMillan. Who is the better pure grappler? I don't know. I think it's close, right? I think McGoyan has all the makings of being a very good professional mixed martial arts fighter. It's just a matter of you're taking the fight on about a week and a half's notice against another guy who's going to try to do the same exact thing you're trying to do, and a guy who arguably in Tommy McMillan has better jiu-jitsu and better submission skills than McGoyan. I mean, McMillan's an underdog here, right? You look at the graphic right now, McMillan plus 140, McGoyan minus 175. I think it's great value on the underdog here. And no, I'm not just taking him because he trains with Sean O'Malley, because he's out of that same camp. I firmly believe this is the right pick here. Yeah, McGoyan can wrestle, and you can be very successful early in the bout wrestling against Tommy McMillan. But again, you're taking the fight on short notice. You're 21, which is still extremely young. And, if you, again, for McGoyan to win, he's got to be good for 15 minutes. And he's going to have to wrestle, and he's going to have to pressure. And sure, McMillan's going to probably want to do the same thing. But Tommy McMillan has been preparing for this for months at this point. McGoyan's had a couple weeks. Now, that's going to make it even more impressive if McGoyan's able to get the victory, which, don't get me wrong, he 100% has the ability to do so. I think he's fought better competition on the regional scene. Now, again, both these guys have never lost, right? McGoyan 7-0, McMillan 8-0. But I do believe McMillan's able to find success early in this fight. I think McGoyan might win the first. And again, this is kind of a tricky pick because McMillan's never been out of the first round. But you've been training for the fight for months. McGoyan's been training for the fight for weeks. So I think McMillan, even though he hasn't reached a second round yet, will probably get better as the fight goes on. I think early moments, I think McGoyan's going to look to wrestle and obviously stop whatever McMillan's got going on early. I mean, it just makes sense, right? If you're McGoyan, you got to stop that, quick attack. You got to stop that. McMillan's going to throw hard at the beginning of fights. That's what he does. He throws big shots. He's going to look to catch you in something. If you shoot on him, which rarely happens, he's going to look for that guillotine choke. He's going to try to, again, put you on the mat as well. He can strike as well. But again, if you're McGoyan, you probably have to limit whatever McMillan's got going early in the fight. But again, I just don't love a wrestle-heavy fighter taking the fight on short notice against another guy who knows how to wrestle and is very good at it on a couple weeks' notice. I just don't like it from McGoyan here. I'm going to go with Tommy McMillan. I believe he is going to get a late finish in this fight. I'm going late second round sub for Tommy McMillan just because, again, he's been preparing for the fight and David McGoyan has not. On a full camp, I'd probably take McGoyan, but I'm going to take Tommy McMillan as a dog for our first fight of the night. Let's go to our second fight, and we move to the flyweight division. Eduardo Chapelene, or Henrique, the nickname's Chapelene. I believe he's going to go by Chapelene. I have it on the graphic as Henrique, but they, in his fights in the regional scene in Brazil, they say Chapelene as his name. So Eduardo Chapelene takes on Antoine Ho. Antoine Ho is back on the Contender Series, and he is still extremely young, right? Antoine Ho was given an appearance on the Contender Series last year against Loney Kavanaugh, and he got knocked out in the first round. Now, Loney Kavanaugh had all the hype around him. Ilya Topuria praised Loney Kavanaugh after Kavanaugh's first ever fight. He had some hype. And then Charles Johnson went out there and knocked him out. Shout out to the NRG. Charles Johnson. Hey, who told you that was going to happen? Anyways, Antoine Ho, since losing to Loney Kavanaugh last year, comes back to LFA, wins a fight by 16-second front kick knockout. And here he is now back on the Contender Series. Antoine Ho isn't bad. He's not. Watch this fight against Kendrick Latchman. It's a fight where Antoine Ho actually misses weight. Goes out there, pressure heavy, obviously. He's going to throw big shots. Not a bad grappling game either, right? I think that gets lost in a lot of what Antoine Ho does because of his finishing potential at 125 pounds on the feet. This is a guy who can grapple. I mean, I watched, again, that Kendrick Latchman fight. He's jumping the back several times in that fight after he is stinging Kendrick Latchman on the feet. So that is always going to be there for Antoine Ho. Again, he's only 24 years old, originally supposed to be taking on Frank Silva in this bout, but now he gets arguably a tougher opponent. And Eduardo Henrique, or Eduardo Chapelene, this is a guy who's fought 5 times in LFA with only 1 loss to Davi Bittencourt, a guy who has fought in the Contender Series before as well, lost to Rocha last year on the final Contender Series card. But Henrique's put together 4 consecutive victories. Right now, he is the reigning LFA flyweight champion, defending that belt twice. His last defense, a first-round knockout victory. Prior to that, another first-round knockout. These are 2 flyweights who are going to have finishing potential, which you don't always see, obviously, at 125 pounds, right? I guess the new age of flyweights, we are seeing a lot more finishes down here. But, these are 2 guys who are going to throw hard. These are 2 guys who legitimately have knockout power. Henrique does throw more, more hooks than Antoine Ho is going to throw. Ho is going to be more up the middle in a sense, and Henrique Chapelene is going to throw his hooks to try to do damage. I like Chapelene more here. I know it's on short notice, but here's the difference between this fight and the first fight of the night with Tommy McMillan and David McGoyan. I don't mind strikers taking fights on short notice. Especially, again, when you are a guy in Henrique who has shown multiple first-round finishes, and you're a guy who has gone out there and you have, won fights early, and you have, been a champion in LFA, which is a major promotion. I don't really have a problem with that. He's not going to go in there, and again, if Henrique wins, it's probably going to be by knockout. As the fight goes on, I will favor Antoine Ho, but I've seen Antoine Ho knocked out on the Contender Series before. He is a hittable guy. He's a very hittable guy. Not to say Henrique isn't either, but I just like Henrique in the spot. I think he's fought better talent in the regional scene. I believe Antoine Ho trains, I'm pretty sure he trains with Sean O'Malley as well. I think this is just the Sean O'Malley card here for the Contender Series. I could be mistaken there, but I'm pretty sure Antoine Ho is fighting out of Arizona as well. I just like Henrique in the bout. I do. Antoine Ho, guys, coming off of beating a 3-4 guy. That Kendrick Latchman fight I was talking about earlier. Well, Kendrick Latchman's a 9-9 fighter. Eduardo Henrique has been fighting top talent in LFA, defending his championship in LFA. There's been good LFA flyweight champions in the past. Look, hell, Charles Johnson was a former LFA champion. LFA gets good talent at 125 pounds, and I've seen Eduardo Henrique turn away 3, LFA, high-level LFA talents, and he's knocked them all out at 125 pounds. Again, that reminds me of what Charles Johnson did in his run in LFA when he was knocking out guys like Nicholas Moda at flyweight. So I believe Eduardo Chapelene should knock out Antoine Ho as well. I've seen the story before from Antoine Ho. Henrique Chapelene, to me, is the better fighter with the better experience and the better opposition, the better competition so far. He's going to chin Antoine Ho in the first round. And this is exactly the type of guy the UFC is looking for. Dana White is looking for coming off the Contender Series, a guy that can put you down and knock you out. I think Antoine Ho has a striker's chance, and I believe Antoine Ho may need to grapple a little bit here. Might need to. Henrique Chapelene can grapple too, but I believe he's just going to be getting beat on the feet here. Yes, again, Antoine Ho can knock you out. He's got the potential to do so, and that's something that is somewhat rare at times at 125 pounds at flyweight. I just believe Chapeline's the better fighter, and he's the better striker as well. He's got more finishing potential even than Antoine Ho, and I saw Antoine Ho last year come to the Contender Series and get knocked down in the first round as well. I'm taking Eduardo Henrique and Eduardo Chapelene to knock out Antoine Ho in the first round here and earn a contract as well. Full transparency, I believe Tommy McMillan's going to earn a contract too. He's got the whole O'Malley thing going on, okay? Give me Eduardo Henrique. Next up, we go to potentially, I believe, the fight of the night. Not in terms of the main event is going to be very fun. But this fight, I think, in terms of pure talent, is the best fight tonight. Mandalo takes on Samuel Silva. This is great. Mandalo's been a guy who's fought in Bellator before. He's been, well-versed in the regional scene in Canada, coming off a submission victory in the first round in Samurai MMA. Again, this is a guy who's fought in Bellator before. Did go 4-3 over there with wins over Bryce Logan, Ricardo Saxias, and Harrington Banks. Lost to Kilias Mota, lost to Nick Brown, lost to Adam Piccolotti. Guys, again, that are decent, but, lost to Nick Brown, Not the best run for Mandalo in Bellator. He beat some guys, but never beat high-level guys in Bellator. That's what I'll say. Since then, Mandalo's won 4 straight fights, but he's beating a 10-8-1 fighter by knockout in the first round in ex-MMA. He's beating a 12-13 fighter by rear naked choke. He's beating a 27-12 fighter, and he's beating an 8-4 fighter in Samurai MMA. Good victories, right? I watched the fight in Samurai MMA against Robert, Saris. Mandalo's getting beat on the feet, and okay. The fight lasts 4 minutes, and Mandalo is losing on the feet for the first minute. He ties up with Robert Saris, backs him up against the fence, somehow finds his back, and it's a really nice back take, I'm not going to lie. Jumps on Saris's back and subs him out, and chokes him out with the rear naked choke. But again, not that impressed with the striking game out of Nalo in that fight. I understand it's been a minute, and I have seen Nalo's overall work. He can strike, obviously, and, that's Nalo's thing. He is a striker, and his grappling has been getting better as his career has gone on. He trains out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Fair Sahabi is his head coach at TriStar, I believe. Pretty sure he's a TriStar guy. I'm not the highest on Nalo, though. Because when you look at that Bellator run, has not been the best guys. He got TKO'd by Nick Brown. Piccolotti choked him out, and Piccolotti's a good fighter. Kilias Mota killed his legs. He chopped those legs out the entire fight. Nalo's got it, he's got the striking game, he's got a grappling game as well. The competition, though, is not there for me. And I didn't love the beginning of the Saris fight. I understand it was a minute. But also, guys, Mandalo's 33. You're 33 years of age. You haven't fought in over a year. Your last fight was in August of 2024. And you're taking on Samuel Silva, who just beat George Hardwick for the Cage Warriors Championship as a plus 400 underdog. Now, have the mighty have fallen, right? I mean, George Hardwick, all he had to do was beat Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi on the Contender Series in 2023, and he was going to get his contract. He was a minus 400 favorite. He loses. He goes back to Cage Warriors, defends the belt once, and then loses to Samuel Silva in a decision. Samuel Silva, guys, is the complete package. Another guy who will break you in there. He can grapple. He can wrestle you. I think he's going to knock Mandalo out. Everything I've seen out of Samuel Silva, especially early in fights out of him, everything he throws early in the fight is made to knock you out. It is hooks upon hooks upon hooks upon hooks upon hooks. That is all Samuel Silva is trying to do in that first round. And especially in a fight like this, where I don't love Nalo's striking game. I don't. I think he's all right. I think it's a little overrated, at least from what the commentators speak on it to be at Samurai MMA. They talk about, oh, Mandalo is a very credentialed striker. He is a guy who deserves and is supposed to be at the highest level of mixed martial arts. Maybe, and again, that's why I think this is a high-level bout. Samuel Silva, to me, is just better. Again, this guy beat George Hardwick in a 25-minute fight and beat him by decision. He's coming off a submission victory prior to that in LFA, right? I've seen him knock out guys on the regional scene as well, and again, just walk them down early in bouts. I've seen him walk a guy down and then find a guillotine choke right away after, right? I've seen Samuel Silva go into fights, walk fighters down, completely dominate on the feet. Opponent shoots for a takedown, immediately cinches up a guillotine choke because of what Samuel Silva is doing on the feet as well. And what makes him great too is that he can switch things up. I mean, I've seen, again, back and forth. He'll 1 second to be landing a bomb on you, the other second he's shooting for a double. It's a complete fighter. It's probably the best fighter the UFC is going to find on this, on this card, I believe. He's 13-4-1, so he has lost in the past. And the one thing I will say, his aggressiveness can get him hit in fights. That's the one thing. Like, he got knocked out in 43 seconds back in Shoot, though, in 2023. Because, yes, he can be over-aggressive at times, and he can overextend. And if he throws a big hook and he misses, boom, he's left to be, he's, wide open to get hit. That is always going to be a factor. Mandalo, I mean, I guess has power. To me, though, Mandalo, and unless he's landing kicks, probably not going to knock you out with one shot, right? He has a Superman punch knockout victory in Bellator. He has a he countered Bryce Logan, put him out. He hasn't knocked out anybody really in the last, 3 fights. And he hasn't looked great on the feet, I think Samuel Silva is going to win this bout. I think he's going to knock out Mandalo in the first round. Grappling-wise, I think it's competitive down there, but I don't really think it hits the mat personally in this bout. I'm going to go with Samuel Silva to knock out Mandalo. I believe he's going to get it done in the first round. And yes, he will earn a UFC contract. I just have a feeling everyone might earn a contract tonight. That's just kind of the way the Contender's going. You get a 12-12 contract. You get $12K to show. You get $12K to show and win. Anyways, next up, our 4th fight of the night. You may remember the name, or you may recognize the name. Cezary Olezsiejczuk gets his chance to fight in the UFC. From Poland, obviously. Michal's the brother. He's taking on Theo Haig in this fight. A clash of styles is the easiest way I can put this. Again, I can break down these fights all I want and talk about past fights I've watched. Theo Haig's going to wrestle Olezsiejczuk. And Olezsiejczuk's going to try to outstrike him and knock him out. Okay? This fight is going to be won and lost with Olezsiejczuk stuffing takedowns. That's all it is. Theo Haig, 6 fights, 6 submission victories. Okay? He goes in there. He's going to try to take you down. He's going to try to wear you out. And he's going to try to submit you. That's all he does. We've seen it in Bellator before. We've seen it now recently in LFA. It's the same game plan in every single fight. He has not gotten out of a second round. He's only been to a second round once ever in which, he submitted the fight, or he got the fight won, and he submitted his opponent in that second round. That is all Theo Haig does. Straight wrestling. He's from American Kickboxing Academy, obviously in San Jose, California. So that's the background. He is another one of these, young up-and-coming guys from AKA, in this new wave, I guess, of AKA fighters since, the original wave of AKA guys and Rockhold, Cormier, Habib, King Mo, obviously are not fighting anymore. Legoy Ivanov, I believe, trained there at one point in time. Theo Haig's good. He's huge for the weight class. He's a 6'2 middleweight, but you can tell the dude's built. Like, he's going to be walking at about 200 something, I would say, in the cage. He's a huge middleweight who has the AKA backing, and you're taking on Olezsiejczuk here, who's a huge middleweight as well. He's 6'3, and the dude hits like a truck. So go back and watch his last fight at FNC in Croatia. He's fighting former UFC fighter Tom Breese. He goes in there and knocks out Tom Breese in 90 seconds. An odd fight. I believe Breese missed weight. I didn't completely pick up on this. The fight starts, and the referee immediately takes a point from Tom Breese. I just assumed he missed weight in that fight. I think that's what happened. Yeah, okay, he missed weight by 5 pounds. That's what happened. Because it was odd. The fight starts saying, all right, let's get it on. And then referee goes, time. Tom Breese for taking a point. Doesn't matter because Olezsiejczuk obviously knocks him out in the first and knocks him out really quickly with a nice combo, puts Breese down, he wobbles, and, obviously gets knocked out. The power is all there with Olezsiejczuk. And obviously, right, you got the family lineage already in the UFC, or not lineage, well, I guess it's just his brother is in the UFC. He hits like a truck. And I think he might be better than Michal. I think he's got more potential. Michal Olezsiejczuk will always be just like one of those gatekeepers of the top 20. Olezsiejczuk, Cezary Olezsiejczuk has real power. Real power. It's just all a matter of if he can stuff takedowns in this fight. That's really all this is. Took on a guy in Alibeg Rasulov who beat him in 2023. That's his only career loss since 2019. That was a guy who was looking to go out there and wrestle him. That's why I'm a little bit concerned because Theo Haig, again, that's all he does. But the odds, man. Olezsiejczuk minus 300. Theo Haig plus 235. I mean, those alone just make me think, again, there's something I don't know. And, well, obviously, Olezsiejczuk's in a prime position to win the fight based on the odds. If I were to make odds, again, not knowing, again, what Vegas had and just watching these two fighters and evaluating the two, I'd probably put Olezsiejczuk at like minus 160-ish and Haig at around like plus 135. Don't entirely get these odds, so I wouldn't bet the fight, by any stretch of the imagination. I believe Cezary Olezsiejczuk will win. Okay, I do expect that to happen. I think Theo Haig, once, now he's taken on high-level guys, and this is probably why he's such a big dog, okay? Olezsiejczuk has beat Tom Breese, former UFC fighter. He's fought in good guys, right, over in Europe. He's fought in some very talented fighters over in Croatia and in Poland. And he's 25 as well. He's 4 years younger than Theo Haig. Theo Haig has been kind of just brought up and, given very easy matchmaking. Let's just call it how it is, right? He fought a 7-7 Said Magomedov Abdullayev in his last fight. A guy who's coming off a 4-fight losing streak, and Theo Haig went in there and submitted him in the first round in LFA. He fights in Zhang Lo Cage Fighting Series. I believe that's a Dragon House promotion. In San Francisco, California. He submits a 18 of 34 and 1 guy in the first round. He's brought up in Bellator, won 2 fights against no names, and still has not fought in a good fighter just yet. It's hard to really, again, assume you're going to beat a guy. By the way, you've had 6 pro fights, and you're fighting a guy who's had 3 times that experience, and Olezsiejczuk, who's fought 18 times and has a 15-3 record. Again, the one thing for Theo Haig and the saving grace that he has is that, okay, if he wrestles and he sees success wrestling, there is a potential that he could submit Olezsiejczuk. But I don't think Theo Haig is ready for 15 minutes, especially because I've seen Olezsiejczuk go deep in fights before. He has way more experience. And what happens when, again, you're a wrestler in Theo Haig, you're tired, you can't get takedowns late in fights, and you got a Polish striker who's looking to knock your head off still, who still has a decent cardio after he still has a decent gas tank after 10 minutes. Again, it takes a lot out of a fighter to go in there and heavy wrestle, hard wrestle for 15 minutes. Theo Haig's never been in that position in an octagon just yet, or just in a cage just yet. Every opponent that he's had has, somewhat just fallen over for him. Olezsiejczuk's not going to fall over for AKA's Theo Haig in this fight. 93% of voters are going with Olezsiejczuk on Tapology. I'm going to be one of them. I believe he's going to knock out Theo Haig in the second round. No, I'm going to go first. Because if Theo Haig's not able to get a takedown, Olezsiejczuk's eventually... No, I'm going to go second. I think it's going to take a little bit. But once we get into that second round and Theo Haig's not able to get that takedown and he's not, on top and he's not looking for submissions and now, I have to defend strikes and, I'm getting big shots thrown my way, I just don't like it. I'm going to take Cezary Olezsiejczuk to earn his UFC contract. Again, we're probably looking at a 5-contract night. There's not many, and UFC's doing a better job with this. They're not finding many decision merchants anymore on the Contender. Cezary Olezsiejczuk wins this fight by second-round knockout over Theo Haig. On to the main event of the evening. Let's move now to a matchup in the welterweight division. Jack Congden takes on Jean-Paul Lebisioni. Lebisioni from Hermosa Beach, California, coming off a victory in LFA, back-to-back victories in LFA, 3 straight victories in LFA, taking on Jack Congden, who fought I was going to call it the Temu version of Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald. That's actually insulting to the guys who actually fought in Congden and Zach Davis. Tremendous fight in Cage Titans in his last bout in May of this year. Legitimately, you're not going to find better fights than that. That was amazing. My problem with this, though, with Jack Congden, if that's in the UFC and you're fighting a high-level guy, or hell, if you're fighting Jean-Paul Lebisioni in a fight like that, okay. Standing, back and forth war on the feet. He's getting tagged. He's tired at the end of the fight. Well, in the 7 minutes the fight lasts. I thought the fight, I thought Congden, again, I was not watching the fight live, and I knew who won. But, I'm watching that fight, I'm thinking, how does this guy not get knocked out here? Jack Congden against Zach Davis. He's really, really hurting him in the first round. Second round, Congden gets split wide open. He gets hit with some big shots. He's kind of just standing there in the cage, and, Zach Davis is touching him up. By the way, this is a Zach Davis fight, a fighter in Zach Davis, who's 9-6. Okay. Jack Congden's getting tagged in that second round. There's a moment in the second round, too, a minute in, where he's standing like this, and he's just kind of looking at Zach Davis, because he's getting tagged, he doesn't really know what to throw back. Davis is cracking. Davis gets him in that, in a dirty boxing situation, you know, in a tie-up where just landing big uppercuts. And you're thinking, okay, this might be it for Congden. Well, no, Congden lands a straight right, puts Zach Davis down, and knocks him out. Okay, good victory. And obviously, it's a huge win and whatnot. Great fight. Cage Titans called it maybe the fight of their promotion ever. It's a really good bout. That's concerning, though, when you're fighting 9-6 guys to that type of fight. And yeah, is Jack Congden primarily a grappler? Kinda, but he's kind of built as a striker at the same time. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm so serious. Jean-Paul Lebessione is going to finish this fight in about 2 minutes. Jack Congden just gets hit way too much. And you can say that last fight is a product of, it's a back and forth war. You know, the guy who's fighting was very tough. He could have knocked him out. 100% sure. I don't care. You get hit way too much. And Lebessione hits like a truck. I watched Lebessione's last fight. I watched his last knockout win in March of 2024 against Adam Wamsley. Goes in there, knocks this dude out with a straight right, and then obviously finishes the fight on the ground. I mean, again, a guy who is going to be built as a grappler, who I actually think his striking is pretty good too. I mean, he passes the eye test. If you watch Lebessione, yeah, he's a grappler. Look at his kicks. Look at that fluid motion on his strikes and his just entire striking game. This is more than just a guy who's going to try to, dive on legs and submit you, okay? Lebessione is actually the total package. His only loss, or one of his 2 losses, his only losses are to good guys. Jacoby Jones, who we've seen who's had a lot of success in the UFC, he got TKO'd in the second round, and he got knocked out by Spike Carlisle pre-COVID in 2019. That doesn't move me, okay? Lebessione, great grappling, but where I think he actually wins his fights on the feet. I think so. He's got very good striking, in my opinion, especially compared to a guy in Congden who gets hit way too much. If we get one of these back and forth wars, then I don't know. But I mean, I just don't think so. Lebessione also, if he needs to grapple, I believe he's a better grappler. But I think the straight shots is really going to hurt Jack Congden. I watched Jack Congden's last fight against Zach Davis. He's going to hit up the middle. Yes, he's getting hit with uppercuts. But if you're going to hit that much against a guy who's 9-6 and Zach Davis, who, he's 9-8 now, who professional MMA is definitely not his main job, I don't know what you want me to say when he takes on an actual high-level talent in Lebessione, 26 years of age, from Los Angeles, California, who can wrestle you and is going to look to knock you out early in the fight too. And I think that, again, just doesn't get talked about in terms of Lebessione, at least in the fights that I've seen. They've always, he's a great grappler. Yes, he is. Last fight was a triangle choke submission in 4 minutes in a main event in LFA. He's an underdog too. But the striking game is there too. And especially against a lower level striker, in my opinion, in Zach Davis, he's going to see so much success. Yes, again, not Zach Davis, Jack Congden. Yes, Congden knocked out Zach Davis. He gets hit way too much against a guy who is 9-8 professionally and doesn't take MMA as a serious job. Or, no, MMA is not his main job, okay? Jean-Paul Lebessione will win. If he needs to grapple, it's there. And also, guys, Jack Congden fights at Cage Titans. Well, that's the promotion he fights out of. He doesn't train out of the New England cartel, that just kind of mid-gym, where they have a lot of, guys who shouldn't be where they're at because they get booked against easy fights. Jack Congden trains out of Lakeville MMA in Lakeville, Massachusetts, where he is one of 3 professional fighters coming out of this gym. He fights at the Cage Titans promotion, where they have been known, Calvin Cater and company with the New England cartel, give you the easiest matchmaking possible to get you into the UFC because Cater has the connection to the UFC and because Cage Titans is on Fight Pass, okay? I'm taking Jean-Paul Lebessione by first round knockout. I honestly believe every fighter on this card is going to get a contract. If I had to rate them, I don't even know. Number 1, probably, again, the way I see it, Samuel Silva. I think, again, that's a very impressive win over Mandalo. I'd probably go Lebessione next. No, I'll go Olezsiejczuk next, then Lebessione, then probably Tommy McMillan, and then Eduardo Henrique. But truth be told, I believe all 5 of these guys are getting contracts. As long as they can win and go get finishes, they should all be in the UFC. Again, McMillan's the one dog we're taking on the card. I think it's a great spot for him against McGoyan, who is taking this fight on short notice. So, folks, thank y'all for watching our week number 4 Contender Series predictions here on the channel. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do this great thing in the picks. We'll be back next week for more Contender Series predictions and our UFC Noche predictions next week as well. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.